because we're going to roll into another one of our topics, one of our recurring bits in our last topic for this episode, and that is going to be which is better. And you put this in here, so why don't you tell it?
So I was thinking about this, and it's a simple one, but I think the answer, and I want you to think about it, not just blah 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 like you usually do. When it comes to Sonic, and if you want to say franchise, fine, but I'm really talking about Sonic 1. What was better about that game? And take the context of when it came out. The music or the graphics? And to just lay the groundwork, I look at it
and I'm going to type this in here to say Sonic 1.
That's fine.
Graphics.
Yeah, because really what I'm saying is, okay, Sonic 1, when it came out, the Genesis, especially, like, their blast processing, everything, basically the shit you saw all the time was from Sonic. How fast it moves, how impressive it was, graphically, what it could do on this system. And it was really the first line of competition to Super Mario, to Nintendo. It was the standing thing of like, look at what we can do, what you guys can't, because of how fast it moves. I think much later on, not that you didn't love the music as a kid, but as a kid, especially in that era, you were surrounded with great music. And like most things that become cult appeal, like Green Hill Zone and that soundtrack are memorable because you grew up with it, you loved it. And we know how classic that first soundtrack is. But what do you think? Yeah, what do you think is actually truly better with all that historical, not just personal preference, but you add in historical context?
You buttfucker.
There you go. Because I know you would just go music, and I don't blame you. I'm not even saying that's wrong.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, if you add in historical context, which is better, the music or the graphics?
It's going to have to be graphics just because of how fast, how smooth, how clean it plays. And then if you take a look at the Japanese version, which I think came out a couple months later, it actually had even better graphics than the North American one because the background layers had, like, different multi-layered parallax scrolling where the background layers in the North American one would just be pretty static.
Hold on, I gotta check one thing.
God, piss, damn it.
Yeah, I know, but the problem is I think we're in America, so I'm talking about America, so stop talking about goddamn Japan and their releases, so let's stick to brass tacks. And you didn't grow up in Okinawa, did you?
I don't know, I might have.
I don't think you did, Jim.
I could say I did. Prove me wrong. You weren't around back then. You didn't know me.
Where was the house located that you pulled Doritos out of your dishwasher? Was that Japan? I don't think it was.
Might not be.
Was that in the northeastern region of America?
Possibly. Possibly northeastern.
So let's
Atlantic
just
coast.
worry about the America. Let's not show like you're trying to peacock with your nerd knowledge of Japanese games. Don't do that.
Probably let me peacock.
So let's just stick to American releases, you motherfucker.
Want to see my peacock?
So you're going graphics.
Unfortunately, if you're going to throw your fucking historical significance and all that stuff in there, then yes, it's going to have to be graphics solely based on just how it truly showed what the Genesis could do with speed and power. Because we're not talking like Last Battle or Altered Beast where they had big sprites that showed the power, but, the gameplay was clunky as shit. No, this was pure speed, like, crazy smooth. Like, it really showed, like, holy crap, this next generation's insane.
Yeah. So, I'll actually agree with you. And what I was thinking, it's along the same lines. It's basically, number one, this was the goddamn poster child for competition to Nintendo. And this, better than any better than any Sega Genesis game, showed what the Genesis could do. And arguably, it's like the best example because most other games couldn't get that speed and that frame rate down the same way this game could.
Right.
But on top of that, music is obviously super subjective, as you and I discussed. Like, you tie your, and this isn't a dig, we all tie our nostalgia to what we grew up with.
Right.
And you've been proven wrong by all of our fans, not even saying me. And your selection of Sega songs versus Super NES songs and yada, yada, yada. But really, it
not
just
always.
comes down
I'm
to...
dying on that Mortal Kombat 1 hill, and people are agreeing with me.
Listen, Jim, my point is that music and sounds are so subjective, but graphics are kind of they can be subjective, but at the same time, like, there's no denying how impressive graphically it is. Like, even if you want to hate on the Sega Genesis, whatever, the things we're pointing out, the frame rate, how fast it is, the color, like, there's no doubt if you look at that versus the NES games, it's better looking. Even if you don't prefer it, you can say this is a better looking thing. Yeah, I may not prefer it, but whatever. Whereas sound, someone, if they wanted to argue, like we did one of our first which is betters, what's better, the Super Mario Brothers soundtrack or Sonic?
Yeah.
You could argue just which one is more classic, which one sticks in you. Like, there's a lot of things you can. Whereas graphics, you can't argue. So just for that reason, since it seems to be a little more irrefutable, I'm going to say graphics are better. But that's not to say the music isn't goddamn excellent.
Yep. Yeah, because, I mean, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, the music. But when you put it, that way, I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, the graphics.
So, this... all right, if I'm just... We don't got to dive deep. You personally, and you don't have to put historical context,
right.
I think I already answered it for you. What has more of a lasting impact on you from games? The graphics or the sound?
It'll be a good soundtrack will last with me way longer.
Has there ever been a game that graphically impressed you so much that that's what stuck with you? Because I was trying to think about that.
That's a good question.
Like, it's tough because you can be a kid, and I remember the first time I saw an FMV.
Oh, you know what? You know what? I've mentioned this one a bunch of times before, but I always go back to it, and even in the grand scheme of things, it's not a great example, but Star Wars on the 32X. Just seeing 3D polygons of, the X-Wing flying around and having General Akbar at the bottom actually talking to me blew me away. And that first, holy shit kind of moment always stuck with me there. So I guess if it's, a generational kind of, expansion or, jump, it does, but, for as far as, a single game goes, I can't really think of anything.
Well, I think, no, what you just provided is kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Like I said, for me, Resident Evil, that FMV, that opening movie, I was like, that's just a movie on here.
Yeah.
And it looks movie quality, it sounds great. That lasted with me of just oh, this is what games can show you now. Because before that point, I hadn't seen anything. Doesn't mean there wasn't other things like that. I just hadn't seen it. So that stuck with me oh, so every game can do this.
Yeah.
They can make a mini movie before. And I loved cutscenes. I was all about it as a kid.
Oh, you know what? You know what? I can throw another one in there, too, along your lines. The intro to WCW vs. the World, when, to me, that looked like straight up just, a highlight reel off Monday Nitro.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Obviously, the graphical, what you were impressed with from a kid is it's impressionable, but it doesn't last. Like a kid that just starts playing games today, if they saw the other things we just mentioned, they'd be like, yeah, every game does those things, or whatever. Music is the thing that lasts longer and can really outshine the game. I think most nostalgia people have for games, like you and I have talked about, sometimes can really be just tied to the music. You can be like, okay, the control might not be as good as I thought it was, the gameplay's kind of simple, but that goddamn soundtrack really gets me. Whereas graphics are the things that really, you're like, whoa, I feel like you never know it's a good song until many, many times playing it, and then later thinking about it.
Yeah, what do you call it? Graphics are short-term memory, music's long-term memory.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. You're immersed in holy shit in the moment. Whereas 5 years down the line, you're like, oh yeah, I still have that theme stuck in my head. You talk about one of your games you loved was, what was it, Mass Effect 2 or 3?
Yeah.
Can you think of any music from that game?
Not really. I actually think of the sound effect of the Reaper more than anything in those games.
But that's my point. I'm not saying that the music's bad in that game.
No, the music's good. It just never stuck with me the same way. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just, that's always an interesting, what impacts you more, so.
Yeah.